do I introduce this concept? God sees everything. So I got nothing to hide anyway. I just want you to know I took medical marijuana and I didn't feel confident in having a stream today until the weed started to kick in. So then I guess something to do with my neurotransmitters. And that's it. So I feel good. I feel like maybe you could get something out of my stream, uh, even though I wasn't sure of that before. I'm gonna be 100% honest. This is my life, and I'm on a mission. Just real quick, it's called Masterlukey brand. Okay, this is a mission that came to me. I didn't. I won't take full credit, although I'm the only one who's doing this. This mission comes from beyond my body. I believe that Great Spirit is in all things, and through what's called living minerals, which is like a crystal that grows, a crystal can grow over eons. What we are can be transmitters of, Great Spirit or 0 point energy being focused like a magnifying glass or whatever. So just know that I'm not selfish. I always look out for my health, number one, and I think that my mission is super important. So I do put priorities on things, but I'm not in this game to, I don't know, party on booze and pills, or just drive a supercar for no reason, or wear Gucci belts. You understand what I'm saying? Masterlukey brand, which is um, me, coming through me. Masterlukey brand is for health. Number one, more important than anything else, in my opinion, and I think it's based in a lot of fact, science. If you're healthy, you can do anything. Even if you don't succeed at first, you can make a comeback. But you need to be healthy in order to do that. It's just like if you're in a fight, you could know all the moves in the world, but if you don't have your energy, none of that's going to matter. So conditioning is most important for fighting, more important than technique, even though they're both important. It's like a yin yang, but one has to come first. So I put health above everything. My brand is worldwide. So I'm going to play an interview with, not an interview, a message from somebody in Spain, and he wants to know if I can come there. Yes, but I'm not coming there to train in your gym. I'm coming there with my brand, with my event. It's a worldwide tour, and I want to set up shop. So if I do come to your gym, it would be to install a franchise. Because Gracie is not the way. It could have been a step in the right direction, somewhat, but without a full consideration of health, you're not going to get to where we need to get, as a people. So the Gracie's time has come and gone. No offense, but I'm going to fight them to the death. This is for my family worldwide. Okay, if you go to an IBJJF tournament or a submission only tournament or any grappling tournament, you have a chance of being permanently injured. Period. And it's actually a good chance, because the current system of grappling, which comes from, which doesn't come from the Gracies, but they promote it. They promote it. The goal is to injure your partner. Period. That's what a tap out is. A person crying out for mercy. Please don't injure me. Okay, so my system's different. It's called power hold, not submission. But then you also have the Gracies. Are they teaching how to heal from life-threatening, we can call it disease for just this quick discussion. You have heart disease, you have cancer and diabetes, you have autism, you have arthritis. All of these things Masterlukey brand can fix. Gracie brand, you had your chance. The shit's still going on. Okay? So if you're not with me, you're against me. And I'm against you, Gracies and everyone else. That's why I'm going around the world to fight for my family and install franchise, which is a facility. Now, it could be a pre-existing facility, and we can just put in the certain... I'll just pull up the diagram here, if I have it. I don't know if I have it here. I did. Jeez. Look, I'm trying to take over the world. I don't even have an organized desk yet. Oh my god, bro. Oh, here it is. Never mind. Okay. So, here's my logo. It's on my hat. And it's also a facility. So, like I said, you could install this in a pre-existing facility, or you could build. You have, of course, in the middle, the spearhead that's going to take me everywhere, the arena. Okay, now Friday I'm going to the Bronx, New York. I'm going to a top secret location to set up my next event there, and most likely an ongoing event. Aren't you from a Renzo Gracie lineage? That lineage brought you the skills to be the UFC warrior, veteran UFC warrior that you are. Yes, so we stand on the shoulders of giants, Scotty, but you have to understand that in war, you can't have sentimentality. I'm sorry, bro. That's going to get you killed. You can't have feelings of sentimentality in a battle. You can only have the mission. And look up, what's the name? Ephiestes? I'll look it up for you. Don't leave yet. I know you're going to quit soon. But just watch this part first before you slink away. You think you're going to attack me? Look up the movie. Shit. What's the hell's the name of it? There's a new movie. What's up, Ferran? I'm gonna play your Facebook messages online if you don't mind, because your questions are important to everybody. Now, there's a movie with Robert Drysdale, and we're gonna go to his Twitter. You're using complex equivalence there, Scotty. Love doesn't mean anything. It's a term that you can use to describe certain things, but the real meaning of the word love is emptiness. Okay, hold on. We're gonna get this. We're gonna get this. It's his new movie. Let's go back one thing. We're gonna put Drysdale movie. Closed guard. There you go. Let me just find a... Maybe we could find a 1 minute video. Here you go. 1 minute. Okay.
A lot of times we associate with intellect, academic kind of intelligence. They're not necessarily the same, right? Some of these guys, some of these grandmasters, I don't think they've ever read a book in their life, but they were incredibly wise. They were life smart. They were life wise. And just talking to them, I think I was able to, see. I was curious as to which one I would be like when I was a kid, right? And you got a glimpse of what it is like to reach your late 80s. And I hope that I am in where they are,
That's not the one. Anyway, Closed Guard is all about the real origins of jiu-jitsu. Now, Gracie got the credit, but it's largely political. That's what this movie's about. All the jiu-jitsu practitioners from Brazil who didn't have the political affiliation that Gracie did. The other thing is, Scott, I'll fight any Gracie. Where's the camera? I'll fight any Gracie. I fought Matt Serra. I fought Nick Serra. Okay? Never fought Rodrigo. But I'll fight Henzo. I'll fight Hoyce. I'll fight, let's see, Hickson. Who's his son? Crone. This is the business of fighting. You think we're just gonna hold hands and dance around? Oh, I love you, I love you, I love you. Let's train jiu-jitsu in our pajamas and love each other. Come on, bro. Get the hell out of here with that. I'll fight anyone. And if you're a real martial artist, you want people to beat you so that you know where you can fix your mistakes. Okay? The gi is not the end-all and be-all. Jiu-jitsu is not the end-all and be-all. Now, you could say Jiu-jitsu with a J-U, the art of the samurai, that's a complete art. But Brazilian Jiu-jitsu, I won't accept that, oh, that's on top of everything. No, you have to bow down to the gi and wear a belt. Fuck that. Alright? Renzo Gracie's last fight against Yuki Kondo was a work. And if you can't see that, then I'm not going to have this discussion with you anymore. Okay? It's marketing. And I'll fight Renzo right now. What inspired me to post right now? Never attack. Okay, if you never attack, you're never going to get anywhere, man. You have to have balance. Attack and defense. This guy. Alright, this is from, I'm sorry I'm going to pronounce it wrong. Maybe Ferran or Ferran. 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 It sounds like a Ferran to me, but okay. We'll go piece by piece.
Brother, just finishing lunch, and yeah, man. Let's see if this whole BS conspiracy gets over, man, because it's really pissing people off already, man, and we just want freedom, right? That's what needs to happen. Or what's your opinion on it, Master Luke?
Masterlukey reporting for duty. Alright, so look, I come from a martial arts background where you have a teacher, you have a master. My father was military and police. Okay? I know what it's like to have an authority figure who just says, these are the rules, this is what you have to do. Okay? The opposite of freedom, right? Also, for me personally, when I'm structured, I get the most done. If I have a schedule, like when I was on the Ultimate Fighter Season 2, we trained twice a day, every day, almost every day. We had a day off here and there. Sundays we did like an active recovery. But in those 6 weeks, even though there was times I didn't really want to fucking train, you know, I got a staph infection from the food I was eating, but also being overtrained. Combination of those two things. I got a staph infection in my elbow, giant pimple. So that was a bit much, but I grew as a fighter a lot in those 6 weeks. So I would say, in terms of freedom, let's look at it from a holistic. So you have your pro and con. You have your freedom, which in this world, you have a certain degree of freedom. Okay, so you're in the world. You're a spirit in a body. So we can't do things like fly. I mean, you could technically fly in a plane, but if you get a hand chopped off, that thing's not coming back. So there's limits. There's limits to freedom. You can't just I can't just go on tour right now. I have to set things up in a certain way so that I'll be successful. So we do want freedom. I want freedom, but I also have to understand that within reason. And as a man, we have that ability to be reasonable. Not a female or a feminine nature. If somebody's doing things what's up, Arctic? I already did my Malkuth ritual in the beginning, so shout out to Norway. People can be doing things like drinking alcohol or having a fermentative condition of the gut where the liver is not cleaned out and the things that they eat takes too long to exit the body and starts to break down and release chemicals, which is raising estrogen in the body. So people, as they're sick, they can act more feminine, complaining and acting emotionally and being a bitch. No offense. It happens to everybody. You know, you have to be strict. You have to be focused. We have to be, as men, as warriors, to be champions. We really can't divert. And if you can, we have to recover as quick as possible. Because this is such a narrow gate that we walk through. It's like a samurai sword fitting into a sheath. All right? You got to be very precise because otherwise things can get out of hand, as we see in the world today. Okay? There's potentially people with good intentions, but because they're off on a certain small thing, the whole thing is fucked up. For example, last night on my stream, we learned about Louis Pasteur being the father of modern germ theory. He lied on his findings, but by then it was too late. Now we have vaccines. So 100 years later, or however long later, that one thing created a whole industry, and now you have a situation which Farhan just mentioned, people not having freedoms because of this bullshit. So as far as freedom goes, yes, we do need restrictions, but within reason. With if you don't have this logical truth from the germ theory being incorrect, terrain theory is the real truth. Okay, so that's where freedom, you can't have freedom to just perpetuate bullshit. So you don't want total freedom where people can be killing each other. Now we have a hostile ruling class. They think it's okay to kill people for the greater good. That's because they have competitive bacteria in the gut from eating meat and stuff like that. Okay, now let's see. So we did the pros of freedom, and did we do the cons of freedom? Yeah. Okay. So I think that's we got that point. Let's move on because I see there's questions in the chat, but let me get through these piece by piece. Okay.
You gotta come to Spain, bro, someday. You will really like it here. If you ever come here, man, hit me up, man, and we do some good training, man. You can come to our Gracie Jiu-Jitsu gym. So, man, whenever you want, man, you're always welcome.
Okay, I am coming to Spain with my League of Champions. I already talked about the Gracie thing. Not coming to train in the gi under the Gracies. Once I'm successful in the United States, in Canada, maybe we'll go to South America, to Brazil, and then to Europe. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to play out. I have my plan, but you have to be flexible and adapt. So we'll see where destiny takes us. But I am coming to Spain. I'm going to come all over the world with the League of Champions because it's the safest way. And I'll transition to Scotty's question. Would you fight Henzo with standard MMA rules or your League of Champions rules? What do you think, bro? Is that a serious question? What do you think? These people, they're so brainwashed. It's not even worth it just to get into it. I know you're just trolling me. That's why I'm not going to answer that question. I'm not under anyone. I'm not under any MMA rules. Masterlukey for life. Period.
And bro, like to respond your message on Instagram that I just saw that you replied to me. Yeah, man. I'm a fucking huge Spider-Man fan, bro. Like I've grown watching it, and like I had T-shirts in school of Spider-Man, and
Nice.
Posters in my still got posters of Spider-Man in my room, and yeah, man, my favorite hero. As far as X-Men, I like the Wolverine. But I still haven't. Yeah, I haven't digged in, into the X-Men world yet.
Okay.
I'm interested to see it. I've watched maybe the first movie.
Yeah.
Of X-Men.
No, the
I
animated
watched
series.
The last one. I don't remember.
I was talking about the animated series. So I can tell just from the Spider-Man thing and the movies that you saw, you're a little younger than me. You're probably not even 30 yet. So, yeah, the X-Men had an animated series. That was really cool. All right, let's go because I was just watching this thing on YouTube, and it's about the. That's not today. That's in 2 days. This is, where is it? Did I delete that? Alright, I'm gonna have to go back to my history. Shit, I hope I don't have any porn up here for you guys to watch. No, I gotta go to YouTube history, my bad. YouTube library, should be in the library. History, here you go. Central bank, digital currencies, and the global. So
do some of that work here.
This is apparently, from what I can see, the real reason they're using they're still using the fake germ theory is because most people believe it, and it's a way for them to vaccinate. And when I say vaccinate, what they really want to do is get this nanoparticle injection in you, because that's how they're gonna monitor everything. So it has to do with cryptocurrency, and let's just see what these guys are talking about. Maybe they can explain better than me. The Great Reset. I gotta pee real quick, but let's just listen.
Here, first, let's just set the table. Talk a little bit about Mafiocracy Season 3, your preview episode, and what you're hoping to do there.
No, we're going to pass that. Hold on.
Well, the focus of the whole change to get out, or the new system, would be central bank digital currencies. That's sort of my 40,000 foot take on what's going on and where my channel is. So I really want to touch on this season in Mafiocracy Now is, how does the current monetary system work? What are things like reserves? How do they function? How many types of money are there? What are the legalities of some global law? And that's another first. And that is a radical change from where we are now. Where we are now is we have a series of nations. Each nation is sovereign, has its own laws, and that is not. I just don't see that system surviving if the powers that be have their way. And I say that particularly after watching, and I know you saw it too, an October conference hosted by the IMF about central bank digital currencies generally, and about settling payments across borders in particular. And at that conference, of course, was Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, and Augustin Carstens, the GM, general manager of the Bank for International Settlements. And you could see, okay, they're going to do this, and it's going to bring very radical changes. So anyway, that's sort of my summary of the situation in a nutshell.
Yes, and at this point is when I would suggest that people go back and watch the first episode of Season 3. Watch the entire series if you haven't seen it yet. It is absolutely worth watching. But let's get into some of this. I mean, you just raised about 15 points, each of which could be its own hour-long conversation. But let's just gloss over some of this foundationally important stuff that you've thrown out on the table, including...
Quick pause. Farhan wants to know what I think will happen with Trump and Biden. Gosh. I don't know, man. I think we're supposed to find out next week. But regardless, still got to do what we got to do. If there's a big conspiracy, it doesn't matter. They're going to do what they want to do anyway. You know what I mean? What can you do? Just be healthy, and then whatever happens, you'll have your best chance of success. You know? Say you're about to go into the octagon. Oh, fuck, it's against Brock Lesnar. Well, if you have to go in there, you might as well go in there with your best self. Right? That's the only chance you got. Now, I'm going to just show you what I'm working on right now as far as certain things. I have a sewing job because my mother, she's got issues, which I'm not going to go into now, but she got me this because she wants me to look like everybody else, is what she told me. So it's gray. I like design. I like color, design, schemes. Now this I don't like either, because I have a small wrestler's neck, which means it's thicker than a normal neck. It doesn't go in like this. It goes like this. Scott says, I'm a dedicated team member. I also am 100% Life Food certified. Why would you think I'm trolling and attacking you? Well, look, don't think that's a bad thing. I have accepted that this is my path, and I fight. I don't have a choice not to fight, Scott. So it is what it is. You're gonna come on here. We're gonna fight. If you don't want to fight, you're on the wrong channel, buddy. Because I'm gonna fight no matter what. Period. Anything you do, I'm gonna fight against. If it doesn't pass my my filter. All right, and that's all that matters. So I have these leggings, and I wear leggings or spats, whatever you want to call them, for grappling. And for example, sometimes I go to my parents' house and I had just come from the gym. Oh, you go out in public like that? I'm like, this is how I work. Oh, if you want to be a professional, you shouldn't dress like a clown. It's like, fuck that. They don't, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, look, so this, I'm just explaining to you, where this came from. I wouldn't necessarily have bought this. And this is kind of like too tight, so I don't know if I'm gonna wear it. Maybe if it's really cold, I could do something like this with a hood. I have these, winter balaclavas. So let me just grab one of those so you can see. What I got here. I got a cool one with the skull. Here it is. So I could rock that. I've gotten rid of a lot of clothes because, I'm consolidating. I'm going on tour. I can't bring a lot of shit. So my mother thinks that she's going to get me clothes and I'm going to get rid of my clothes and wear her clothes. So she gives me this bullshit. And this is what I'm going to do with it. Okay, so we got these leggings, which turned out to be too hot because they're 100% polyester. Alright, and they were supposed to be like metal legs. So I'm going to put the metal color on the inside. And then the gold on the outside. Alright. So that's that. Ooh. So while I just get this ready, I'll put back on the economic talk that we were listening to.
The very important observation that money in our system is a legal construct. I would say money, generally speaking, is a social construct that has been taken out of the hands of
Diaz
the people
brothers,
and put into the legal
they're not
framework
smart.
To make it a legal instrument that's controlled.
Although I think they
by
have
the government, but more
a great spirit.
accurately by the people who are controlling.
They're not scientists, so
the people who are creating.
On a scale of 1 to 10,
instruments
I'll give them a
themselves.
5.
So that's an entire field of study right there. Also, to visualize
Medical
what you're
marijuana
talking
road's
about,
getting a little
the
bit of,
debt-based
I don't know what
monetary
you mean by
system,
that.
how that works. I think the best visual
the mask I got,
cue for that I've ever seen
not sure.
was in that Money as Debt documentary series. There were actually 3 parts to that. I think a lot of people saw the original part about 12, 13, 14 years ago when it first came out. Not a lot of people saw part 2, and probably no one saw part 3 other than me. But it was a really good documentary series, and they had a good visual of that system where you are creating money as debt. So it's you're creating these dollars into the system, and people are trying to chase the dollars so that they can pay them back, and interest. So they're running on this treadmill trying to get the dollars, and some people are going to fall off because there are not enough dollars being created. It's and that's the point of the system. That's not a flaw in the system. It is the point to keep people on the treadmill, to keep them running like hamsters in the wheel, I suppose. Again, a foundationally important point. But I want to get to a point that a lot of people ask, because we've been hearing about the end of this system and the changeover of the system for decades, if not, certainly for decades at this point. And people are saying, well, they've kicked the can down the road and kicked the can down the road and kicked the can down the road. Why would it ever end? Why would they ever stop doing what they're doing? Why would they ever need a changeover in the system? Why do you think now? Why is there this push right now to change over to some sort of new central bank digital currency paradigm?
Well, there's a couple of problems that leap to mind. One is that just the juice on the interest has gotten huge. And so every year that goes by, the interest on the national debt just consumes more and more and more of the total gross revenue of the U.S. And eventually, you end up like the guy at the off-track betting facility who's, borrowing to pay the interest, and he ends up with his hands broken or his kneecaps broken. So that's one. The interest keeps going up. So when people talk about, the interest rates are low because of this and that, no, the interest rates are low because they can't go any higher. If they go any higher and the interest payment gets any bigger, suddenly 100% of your budget is going to pay the juice and you're dead. So that's one. You're up against that. But another one that's come to light to me recently in my own research is I've started to wonder, for a long time, the New York Fed, the New York Fed is the regional branch of the 12 regions that handles the sovereign debt of the U.S. It handles the bonds and the T-bills. It also handles a lot of the mortgage-backed securities. For a long time, those transactions are run through the primary dealers, and for a long time, the country's only had 24 primary dealers. And so you've seen over the years, over the decades, banks get more and more consolidated. Just like in every industry, you have basically 6 guys at the top. In commercial banking, it's really 4. But the sectors get more and more concentrated. They can't get any more concentrated. And so I think what you're seeing is as the debt spirals and it gets bigger and you have to write more bonds, you're running out of room on the balance sheet. JP Morgan and Citigroup and they can only take so much onto the balance sheet. And the same is true for the primary dealers. Primary dealers, remember, they're non-banks. So they got to use their money or they're brokering a deal with somebody else. And eventually, as the debt expands and gets bigger and bigger, like you're saying on the treadmill, you say treadmill, I use the analogy of musical chairs. You're running out of chairs. You're running out of slots for that debt. And as that happens, and these banks are less and less able to absorb, treasuries and debt onto their balance sheet, either because they don't have the money themselves in the case of the primary dealers, or in the case of the commercial banks, which can theoretically lend as much as they want. They really can't because of capital requirements and capital limitations. And so everybody's feeling the pinch now as the debt gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And you got to you got to get off the elephant.
Bigger.
It's going to run over the cliff.
But as the proponents
of so this is actually sewn to the elastic, so I'm going to have to cut that.
Theory, tell me that there's no way that
I'm just not sure how much of this fabric I'm going to use, so I don't want to
currency that they
cut the actual
fabric. So there's no problem.
Because then I'm going to have to fold over. Hold on, question? Let's see. If it wasn't for the 45-minute time limit, we could be talking for hours. I'm very interested about a lot of things. Martial arts career, comics, your approach to life. Can't wait for this Saturday. Yes. Well, look. We can have multiple shows. We just have to take things step by step. I want to see what's interesting to your fans, bro. Because sometimes too much is not as good as too little. We give them too little, they come back for more, okay? Now look, I teach people in martial arts, and I want them to invest themselves. So what I do is if I take on a private lesson, I charge a monthly rate. I don't charge privates single. I want them to commit for at least a month. You understand? So I don't want to just do a show with you, bro. I want you to have me on as a guest, a regular guest. So we're going to give them 45 minutes. And you see, do people want to hear more? And then we'll do it again. You can even have questions, answers, from your chat or whatever. But that's why, I said 45 minutes only. All right? And then over time, we'll get to all the questions that we need to. But we'll do the important ones first. I don't want to go over things that we've been going over for forever, I'll touch on the topics that you're interested in, and then we can transition to other stuff that, we may not have talked about yet. So, no, I'm excited about it too. And I'm just thinking out loud, Scott, from your question, the medical marijuana road is getting a bit bumpy. Are you saying that something about my behavior? Is that what you were saying? Or are you talking about the actual what's going on with the medical marijuana legalization? Because if you're saying that I'm acting a certain way because of medical marijuana, all I can tell you is that it's giving me more energy. So it's not making me act differently than I would normally. It's making me have more energy so I can express myself. So if you're a fighter like I am, you have to you have to be uncomfortable. Don't think that life is going to be easy and relaxed. You could maybe you like to comfort yourself. Maybe that's what it is. You don't like the feeling of being uncomfortable. You feel like, oh, something has to be done so that I don't feel like this. You can't deal with the anxiety of being in a battle. So maybe that's something I've developed over the years of training. For example, yesterday I was doing interval sprints on the assault bike, and it's been a week or two since I did that. So mentally, it was like I had to remember what it was like. Once I did the first sprint, and it was only about 20 seconds in, and my legs are already starting to burn, and I'm like, oh fuck, I'm gonna have to dig for this one, So then I remembered, oh yeah, to dig deep and find the way. So that's something that you can train with. Oh, my cousin wants to send me a Christmas card. I just got a text. Okay, now I'm gonna cut this. Should I cut this elastic, or should I undo the seam? I feel like I might use this elastic for something, but I'm not gonna take the time to do the seam right now, so fuck it. I can buy elastic easy. Some people will talk about this on YouTube. Jocko is one of the guys. He says you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Hold on. Farhan sent me a picture. Maybe we put that online. Let's see. Okay, Facebook podcast. There it is. I'm working on my new logo for my podcast. Okay. Oh, when you were posting FB podcast, I thought it was Facebook podcast, but it's your name. Right on. Good shit, bro. Good stuff, good stuff. I like it. For you guys in the chat, so you could see. Cool beans. You ever think of starting a food truck? So what I did was I connected with my brother, who has a bit of money saved up because he has a good job working for Vimeo, and he said he would be a silent investor in my food. So we're gonna do the Union Square Farmers Market, and I got the place next door to me, which is a juice bar, agreed to let me use their facility to make the recipe, which is going to be a pumpkin seed cheese that I call Dino cheese. A bit of paranoia about being attacked. It's better to be a warrior on a farm than a farmer in a war, Scott. So, you have a job. You collect a paycheck from somebody. What happens if they say, oh, you have to be vaccinated to work here anymore? Is that paranoia? Some companies are doing that. You know? Don't think that you're going to have a comfortable life, bro. Comfort equals death. And I'm not the only one saying that. People who aren't on weed say that. So, you're just mad because I'm calling you out on being a punk. You think you're going to come on here and question me? I'm Masterlukey. I make my own rules. Alright? I don't follow the Gracies. The Gracies didn't invent Jiu-Jitsu. Neither did the Japanese. This comes from the ancient warrior, which the spirit still resides in us. And if you clean yourself out, you can tap into that. Rather than accept what other people tell you. I won't accept that. So, that's not paranoia. Paranoia is not what I am. I'm vigilant. Should I do gold on the side, maybe? Farhan, thanks, bro. I never thought I would get to know so many people and bring up big names on my podcast. I'm just a young lion that wants to eat the world, so I'm very thankful for every opportunity. Well, yeah, so I could tell that you're a fan of the sport when I looked on your Instagram and I saw you with everybody. And there's a balance you have to strike, you know. As much as I play up the battle, which I was raised to be more docile, you know, and dumbed down and obedient. But as much as you know what I'll do? I'll turn this so the gold is on the outside like that. There we go. So just got to sew this on the seam here. It's going to be fire. Hell yeah. So as much as I play up the angle, you know, Scott, a lot of this is not kayfabe, but just exaggeration. Exaggeration of the truth. Maybe exaggeration is not the right word. It's dramatic. So as much as I play it up, Farhan, I do have respect for everyone. And that's actually a technique and a strategy of battle. You can't be overzealous in your attack because you might leave an opening. So, and that's showing respect for the other person's ability. If I think that I'm just going to roll over you, I don't have to be aware of any counterattack. So I respect everyone in martial arts, and I try to do that, with everyone. Period. Just try to recognize God in everyone. And I believe in one God, so it's not the God of war, it's just God in general. But he is also the God of war. So that's just my angle, how I come into things. Some people, they worship the lingam. Some people worship the yoni. Some people do yoga. You understand? So, I don't know, Scott. Maybe you should go watch a live video of some surfer dude. Not that that's a bad thing. I have friends who are I have people in my circle who are surfers. I'm just saying angles. All right. This is, I'm wearing this red hat. It's not a blue hat. So just take it as it is. Now for Ron, I have to see you as a useful enemy. Just like Scott. I respect you. But you're doing your own thing. Your life is FB Podcast. My life is Masterlukey brand. You either join me, and one day maybe I can make you an offer you can't refuse. To be, if you're good at commentating or interviewing, to be somebody like Joe Rogan or one of the interviewers for the UFC, you do that for me. You do that for the league. Either you comment events in Spain or you come on tour with me, or we'll figure something out digitally. Okay? So, I'm giving you the chance as a useful enemy. So, just like Scott's complaining, oh, why are you fighting all the time? This is my life. Okay? You have a sword, I have a sword. We can spar even. We can go back and forth. As long as it's towards the same goal. So right now you have a goal, you're going somewhere. I have a goal, you're going somewhere. Now you have a little bit of extra stuff which I might be able to shave off of you. Which is, all these other artists. All these other fighters who aren't promoting Masterlukey brand. Now I understand, look, I'm in my dad's basement right now. And I don't have anything worth somebody like a Gracie to invest in. So that's got to come in time. I have an event on Friday. I'm going to the Bronx. I'm going to hopefully be setting up my next event. And then that could be the start of the tour. But, I can understand where you're coming from as far as looking up to warriors, modern day warriors, which I do. But I also, have come to the place where if you're not with me, you're against me. And even if you're with me, if we're on the same team and we're sparring, you're also against me. But that could be considered a good thing, Scott. It's a good thing to fight. Because that's how you learn. You understand, guys? So, I think it's good that you're into martial arts, Farhan. And the reason why I think that's good is because that got you to me. But don't ever think, none of you, don't ever think that I'm under MMA anymore. Definitely not the current rule system. I'm not in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm not in the UFC. I'm creating something to take over that shit. And if you don't like it, Scott, tough. So what I'm going to do is now that I got this kind of where I want it, I'm gonna just put a pin down here. I'm gonna sew this part first, and then I'm gonna sew this part up here, just so you guys can tell what my game plan is. So if you can see, there's a little seam here. I'm going to connect this seam to this seam. The lengthwise seam is not the same, so we just have to work with that and just take it as it is. So this seam, we're going to go right here. Let me just get my pins. Exciting, right? I'm going to be sewing on camera. Wow. And what time is it? 11. Alright, I gotta go to the gym in a little bit to clean the mat so that I can train my clients later. 1 needle and thread. Okay. Arctic, eternal blessings. I hope people will get out of COVID mode and show up at your events. Yeah. Well, the thing is that I've noticed, now, I'm coming from a certain angle, like I said, so a lot of the people that I follow on social media are in martial arts. So is that an indication of the rest of society? Probably not. Most people are obedient martial artists or fighters, so I see a lot of people in martial arts that are open, they're not closing their business, they're fighting for their business. So, but anyway, what I'm seeing is them open, and I think being in this realm of fighting, more people are going to be, they're not going to be in COVID mode, as you put it. I think because it's martial arts and people are fighting. Normally they're fighting, so they're kind of used to the concept, and that's a good thing. The other thing is because it's going to be streamed live on YouTube, it doesn't necessarily have to have a lot of people at the event. And, that's how I could reach a worldwide audience also. So, but I do want people to be able to come to the event so that the venue can get paid. Because how else is the guy who's letting me host my event at his place, how is he what's gonna make it worth his while? The guy I'm going to see on Friday, his gym, he doesn't accept new students because of COVID. I don't know if he believes in the virus or if he just doesn't want the hassle of having to deal with the regulations. So his school is technically closed. And then I heard that because he's not taking new students, not everybody sticks with martial arts. So it's a business where you have to kind of keep a fresh influx of students, So if he's, oh look, this is ripped here. If he's not accepting new students, then he potentially might be needing to supplement his income. So I want him to be able to sell tickets, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to get money for the fighters. That's my number one goal for as far as bringing money in, is to get the fighters paid. As a promoter, you have to have a card. If you don't have a card, you can't make a profit. Now, the ultimate goal might be profit as a business, but what is the business? What's the product? I have to make sure that these kids want to compete, for money. And the money is going to showcase the scoring system. All right, speaking of money, I'm going to put back on that interview and see if we can learn a little more. And then I'm going to sew this sleeve here. Just don't want the thing to come undone. Now I have to be careful because it's elastic, so I can't. If I don't sew it properly, it could snap the thread. So what I'm going to do is sew 2 or 3 sides. I'm not going to sew all the way around, so that the space where the thread doesn't, where the 2 sides meet, that's going to be where the stretch will happen. If I need to put my fist through this and it stretches out, if you know what I mean. All right, so let me put this back on.
Just continue printing money forever.
I gotta pee real quick. Be right back.
Well, the problem with MMT, they're MMT. Not all of. Be careful not to throw out the baby with the bathwater with MMT. Their stuff on double entry accounting is on the money. And to my way of thinking, where MMT goes wrong, they don't know what a sovereign is. They're telling you, well, it doesn't matter that the Fed, we can control the Fed, and really, we're the principal and the Fed's the agent. That's absolutely false. And they'll tell you that debt is money and money is debt. And aren't we so clever? I'm here to tell you as a lawyer, money is not debt. Debt is not money. They are not the same. They are different. You use money to pay off debts. So this notion that you can expand debt indefinitely is absolutely and 100% false. MMT, in a lot of ways, is an elaborate mechanism that ends up apologizing for the private issuance of money, which in the Constitution, it belongs to we the people. It's really, if you look at Article 1 of the Constitution, it's Congress and the Treasury that should be issuing money, not private banks like the New York Fed, and not private banks like JP Morgan Chase and Citigroup and the commercial banks. And that's really where the fundamental problem is, because when they do it, they issue it as debt. Whereas a real sovereign, we the people, and we did with Continentals and Greenbacks, and there's any number of times where real money is issued and there's no debt attached to it. And that leads to a situation where when you have real money and there's no debt attached, that money is indestructible. You can't just get rid of it. The problem with debt-based money is you get rid of the debts, right? You call in the loans, you shrink the money supply, you cause depressions. And the powers that be like that, because they can then pick up assets for penny on the dollars, they can crush all business, they can crush Main Street, they can pick up those businesses for penny on the dollars. With that accordion-like money supply that they've got now, they've got total control. And under a constitutional system of money, whether in whatever form it takes, I don't care, gold, paper, whatever, to me, that's not really that important. What is important is that they're issuing real money and it's not debt-based. It's not expanding, crazily because there's interest rate attached to it, and you can't destroy it. So you can't just willy-nilly create depressions whenever you feel like shorting the agricultural sector or manufacturing sector or what have you. So there's a big difference. So MMT, like I say, there's a lot of things that seem, it's amazing how these theories like MMT on the one hand or any number of others, they fit people's politics, but they all have a way of circling back around and end up saying, oh, there's nothing wrong with a debt-based monetary system. That's the whole problem.
I think your analysis there is correct, and also not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and also not to take these criticisms too lightly. And someone who I think does a good job of that is Bob Murphy. He's done some deep dives into, for example, Stephanie Kelton and some of these other MMT proponents, and really explained where they're going wrong and taken their ideas quite seriously. So I'll throw that in the show notes if people are interested in delving into that in more detail. But now we have the task of attempting to broach the subject of central bank digital currencies. where I'm sure still, I mean, the question of what are reserves versus what is commercial bank money and how do they play together and what does that mean when we're changing over to a central bank digital currency paradigm? There are so many things that we have to try to explain here, hopefully in a few minutes and hopefully in a way that it's perfectly crystal clear in everyone's mind. But I will give the task to you. How would you describe what this central bank digital currency idea that is now being floated by the BIS and being looked at by the Federal Reserve and many other central banks? What is this that they're proposing to do?
Okay, right now, let's just start with the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve issues, it's a bank of issue, which means they create money out of thin air. And the central bank, the Federal Reserve, is one of three money issuers in the U.S. The other two are one, the Treasury. Treasury issues coins. The second one is commercial banks. Commercial banks issue bank money, and that's the money you and I have in our checking accounts. We know we conduct transactions, our credit cards are commercial bank money. The third issuer money is the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve issues right now two types of money. One is Federal Reserve notes, and that's cash, and the other is reserves. And if you don't understand what reserves are, I have a new video up called Wherefore Art Thou Reserves. There's a big long section, about 20 minutes long. Go to the description box, click on the hyperlink, take you right to it. It's about the 15-minute mark where I walk through what are reserves. But it's basically digital money from the Federal Reserve that acts as a counterbalance to digital money created by commercial banks. And let's just leave it at that. And those forms of money, both of them, let's start with cash. They are on the Federal Reserve's balance sheet. Federal Reserve notes are a liability and reserves are a liability. They have a corresponding asset. And in both cases, the corresponding asset is typically either U.S. bonds, where the U.S. the U.S. government has to write an IOU, so $1 billion IOU, to the Federal Reserve banks, the private Federal Reserve banks like the New York Fed, in exchange for Federal Reserve notes that those banks create out of thin air. Or the U.S. government writes a bond, say $1 billion bond, to get $1 billion of the digital form of money, which is reserves. Okay, so those are the two forms of money from the Federal Reserve right now. As you saw in that conference call with Carstens and Powell, CBDC, central bank digital currencies, are going to be the third type of liability on central bank balance sheets, where the users, by the way, let me back up, the users of reserves in our system is commercial banks. They use reserves. The U.S. government has a reserve account with the Federal Reserve. Foreign central banks have accounts with the Federal Reserve. I mean, those are really the big players with the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is the bank for commercial banks, the U.S. government, and foreign central banks. Okay? With the third type of money, central bank digital reserves, it will be digital money. It will be issued by the Federal Reserve. But the users of this money, of this liability on the Federal Reserve balance sheet, will be you and me. It'll be regular people. Okay? So we'll have in the U.S., say, 330 million accounts with the Federal Reserve, where we'll have a digital wallet or a credit card or what have you. And then you say, well, are there 330 million assets corresponding to those 330 million liabilities? How does that work? No, it'll be one. It'll be one asset, and again, it'll be a U.S. bond, maybe a mortgage-backed security, who knows, that'll be the asset corresponding to those reserve accounts. And the big difference now with this, to my way of thinking, is when you have in the bank money system, you have a lot of issuers of money. So Citigroup, JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, they're issuing their own bank money. Okay, they have to settle transactions at the end of the day because they're all liabilities, and they have to net out to zero. And that's the function of reserves in our system, it enables commercial banks to settle up and everything balances out. With central bank digital currencies, there's only one issuer of the liability, and that's the bank. So there's no need to settle. And that sets up interesting implications for use of central bank digital currencies around the world. It's like, well, okay, if you've got a bunch of central bank digital currencies around the world, does that mean that the Bank for International Settlement will have its own reserve in effect? I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of unanswered questions in this. Another unanswered question is, who writes the rules to settle transactions between people in different countries. Who authors those rules? It won't be the US, it won't be England, it'll be presumably some supranational organization like the Bank for International Settlements, perhaps, or the Financial Stability Board, or what have you. And when that happens, basically it's game over for the dollar as U.S. reserve currency, to my way of thinking. That's my opinion. I think when that starts to happen, the clock is ticking on the U.S. dollar. I think the clock's ticking now. It's definitely ticking then.
We'll do the other side.
There's so much of import in what you just said there, but I want to draw people's attention at this point to this video that you and I have both been referencing in recent days. It's Cross-Border Payment, A Vision for the Future. It was streamed by the IMF on October 19th of this year, and it's a conversation between Kristalina Georgieva of the IMF, as well as Jerome Powell of the Fed, Agustin Carstens, the general manager of the BIS, and a couple of other participants. But you pointed out in your video a particularly interesting dynamic that's going on between Agustin Carstens, the rather rotund general manager of the Bank for International Settlements, who is positively wetting his pants over the amount of control that central bank digital currencies will give to central banks over the individual transactions in a way that they've never had before, versus Jerome Powell, who seems to be tamping down the excitement and saying, hey, don't tip the can too much. Tell us a little bit about that dynamic and what's going on in that video.
Hold on, I'm going to change the video.
So Carstens gets up and starts talking about the virtues of central bank digital currencies, and he uses $100 bills or 1,000 peso notes as his example, and he says, let me explain some differences here. He says, problem with the $100 bill is we don't know who's using it. We don't know what they're spending it on. We're in the dark. And then he says, but with central bank digital currencies, we keep track of every penny. We know where every penny is. And this is even better. It's somebody in a recipient country. So if somebody in America wants to spend their money in Canada, the Canadian bank can just decline the transaction, basically. They have to consent to the transaction for it to go through. And he says in this way, because central banks, you have to require their consent, we can implement all sorts of policies that achieve higher objectives. Wow. And then he goes on, it's like, well, higher objectives like what? And one of them is efficiency. And that's always one they cite, like, oh, we're doing this for your convenience. But then he says, oh, we're also doing it for, I think it was words like inclusion and diversity and, the whole green stuff. And it's like, oh my God, these guys are using their currency. They're using your money to implement, God only knows, whatever policies they have in mind or whatever the flavor of the month is. And he's all excited about this. And then there's a couple of people speak in between. And then Powell says, hey, man, whoa. Powell, this guy cut his teeth. He's a lawyer. Powell cut his teeth at a law firm called Davis Polk and Wardell, one of the top 10 most profitable law firms on a per equity partner basis forever. It's a big white shoe conservative law firm. Powell's like, wait, man. Well, there may be some really good things about central bank digital currencies, but there's a lot of legal issues here, like, your security and hacking and privacy. And he sort of throws the bone like there's an issue of privacy, which of course there is. I don't really think that's what he's worried about. But my point is, Powell recognizes that what Carstens is wading into it's a very slippery slope from, you're implementing your policy to you're writing outright law and you're superseding the laws of the U.S. and you're positioning us, the Federal Reserve. We can't just do whatever we want, Carstens. Okay, the Fed's got legal limits, maybe that other countries don't, because the U.S. has a constitution. And if it gets too far out of line, you're going to force a big legal issue. And the powers that be don't want that. And Powell understands that, Carstens does not. But it was a very interesting exchange between those two.
You're exactly right to pick up on that. And after you pointed it out, I went back and rewatched and saw exactly that dynamic you're talking about. And I think you're right. I think
the other
obviously they're
here,
both
I'm going to leave this
inclined
to
towards the same sort of excitement over the possibilities of this. But I think Powell is much more concerned about the potential sticky issues. And I think you're right. They don't want to force the issue
I'm gonna
and
come
make
over
it
this
so
way.
apparent. The totalitarian tiptoe is always the better way to lead people into a system where the trap can be sprung. And you're exactly right to point out that, for example, Karsten's just happily wades into this minefield without seeming to even understand that his own BIS Innovation Hub, which is this new branch of the BIS that's working on all of these types of ideas. They, in all their white papers, they're always very careful to talk about, well, we can implement this in different ways, and we can have more or less anonymity, and we have to weigh these sorts of things. But he just goes in and says, now we can control everything, guys. It's
he takes a belly flop off the high dive. Another thing to keep in mind with that dynamic is, think about their respective constituencies. Powell knows eventually I'm going to get hauled up in front of Congress. I got to be really careful with this. Carson's constituency is, God only knows who. The BIS, the Bank for International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland, is one of the most secretive organizations in the world. Who knows who his bosses really are?
Wow.
But anyway, he's happy to do their bidding, and he can do so without constraint because he doesn't answer to anybody else, whereas Powell does. And Powell's got to be like, hey, we have a lot of serious legal issues to think through.
Damn,
all right,
bro.
you raised another exceptionally important point earlier.
US
the
versus the
prospect
world.
of the changeover of the world reserve paradigm from US dollar to something else in the future, given this digital currency paradigm that's coming into view. Let's talk a little bit about that. Of course, because the specter of Bretton Woods has been placed on the table by none other than Kristalina Georgieva, who recently said we've reached a new Bretton Woods moment. And for people who are historically illiterate, Bretton Woods, of course, was towards the end of World War II, the big conference in New Hampshire to basically carve out the new monetary order for the world, which really formalized and cemented a process that had been taking place for decades by that point, the eclipse of the British Empire in the old.
Ferrant says, do you think... I heard you said you were going to the Bronx soon. Do you think it's that dangerous as they say, or do you think it's just BS? What's your opinion on this? The Bronx? Or what? I've been there. I'm going to a gym. What can happen at the gym? Yeah, well, I'm in the wrong business if I'm going to be concerned about that. You know what I'm saying? I set up the rules in a certain way to be as safe as possible, and that's it. What else can I do? I have to have faith, I have to have faith and take the leap. Now, the only thing is this. I wish it would have fit a little... I'm texting you on the YouTube chat. Hold on 1 second. Okay. Thanks, Ron. Do I think the Bronx is that dangerous? Oh, yeah. Yeah, so look, danger lurks around every corner, right? You're likely to get hit by a car. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to be going to the Bronx with my suitcase full of martial arts equipment. So if I get jumped, they're not going to get anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to bring my laptop. I'm not going to bring my camera. I'm going to have my phone and my equipment, and that's it. So I'm not going to get jumped. The only thing that I might get is bothered by the cops. So, fuck. I don't think that I'm going to get shot. Is that what you mean? People in Spain think that if you go to the Bronx, you get shot? You get robbed instead every time you go to the Bronx? Because what? Because there's minorities that live there? I don't understand what's so dangerous about the Bronx. The people I know in the Bronx, they do native medicine. They do sweat lodge. They're trying to make it like everybody else. I think people in certain situations created by, the system, they may be eating government issue food, and it's possible that you have higher crime rates in areas of low income because of that. They're not getting quality nutrition, the brain's not functioning right. So they think it's a necessity to hustle in a negative way. You have kids being vaccinated, kids being raised without parents by the state, which does a shitty job. They just want to create automatons, but the human spirit, uh, the great spirit that resides in everyone, it has to find a way out creatively, and they don't know anything. They don't know any better. But I'm not a suit. I don't think I look like easy prey. Basically, they think that many tourists do. I don't believe it personally. I've asked a lot about it to some friends I have there to get enough knowledge. Yeah, I mean, you got places in Brazil that are known for crack epidemic. I just watched a documentary on it. There's a jiu-jitsu teacher who lives nearby, and he goes there and he teaches kids Brazilian jiu-jitsu as a way out of crack city, as they call it. That's a documentary on YouTube. You might have to check it out. Do I think America will become a socialist country? Bro, America's been a socialist country, okay? America's been a socialist country for a while. Let me put on a video that I was listening to this morning. And do I think that the whole world will come under one world government? Yes. I think that, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I grew up in a household where my father was the boss, and my mother, when she's behaving properly, she has issues, but she generally listened to his good advice. Of course, my dad's not perfect either, but I believe in the patriarchy. I believe in a benevolent king, spiritually and here on earth. I want to be his representative. I want to do my best to be a transmitter of great spirit. And I don't think that the male and the female share responsibility. I think that the yin and yang is a correct representation of the male and the female energy. It's not one mixed together. It's two energies together, working together, but one has to come first. You can't have both at the same time. When you throw a punch, you got to turn one way, punch with one hand, then hit with the other. Okay? So I think the male comes first. The male energy is creation. The female energy is nurturing. And that's the way I was raised, and I think that's a good thing, to have a benevolent king. So as long as the benevolent king doesn't consume animal blood or participate in any dark energy, shouldn't say dark energy, I should say, doesn't participate in any rituals where there's harvesting, maybe harvesting. I'm not sure the right word. I don't do any blood ceremonies, period. I do mostly fasting. If I harvest energy, it's from me. It's in a good way towards, something that's going to benefit everybody. Now, like I said, I'm selfish. I'm not selfish. I'm not selfish for a bad reason. When I'm selfish, I'm putting the mission first. And the mission, as we just went over here, is a worldwide family facility. Okay. So let me just make sure I get to my appointment at 1:50. so I'm gonna have to leave here at 1. I got plenty of time. I got 2 hours. Yes. Yeah, so one world government, I don't think that's a bad thing. I just think that the way they're going about it is fucked up because they don't have the brain of the gut. And that's what I think is number one. Health, and then we can get into how we're gonna use, money and all that shit. But okay, if you don't have proper brain function, don't try to run socialism or capitalism or any program like that. You can't have people on food stamps if they're using it to get bread and milk. And you can't have a competition between bread and milk companies. Start with the ingredients. Now, you could have bread and milk made from healthy ingredients. So after that, I think then you can have the discussion about what political system is going to be used. Now, as far as Venezuela or Argentina, I can't really speak on that because even if you look at news clips, things are framed in a certain way. So we don't know really what it's like in Venezuela and Argentina. You understand? There's poverty there. There's poverty here in America. There's homeless people in California. There's homeless people in New York. There's people that are addicted to drugs in Venezuela and everywhere. I would assume that things are different, but also the same. So as far as Trump, Obama, Biden, I haven't really noticed my personal life the difference. They all suck. You know what I'm saying? They're all the same to me. And the only reason why I voted for Trump is because he's not female. I voted against Hillary, and I voted against Kamala Harris. Oh, this is the interview I'm on. This guy is, should we finish this? Let's finish this, and then there's another one.
British-led banking system by Wall Street and America and the Federal Reserve and the U.S. dollar is literally enshrining it as the center of the world monetary order. That has persisted for 70, 80 years now, even though, of course, it was really formally scrapped in 71 by Nixon, although it really had barely even functioned when you get into the nitty-gritty details of it. But at any rate, it was formally scrapped in 71. We've had the petrodollar paradigm. We've had other ways of trying to keep the U.S. dollar as the center of the world currency order. But now we've got this central bank digital currency, and as you say, the issue of settlements between different reserves and different countries is going to involve some sort of supranational organization. Sketch that out for us a little bit. What do you think the next paradigm will look like? Who will it be run by? I mean, obviously, this is all speculative at this moment, but let's talk about how that could play out.
Okay, so what happens in 71? Nixon closes the gold window and breaks the link between the dollar and gold. And gold was supposed to be the ultimate reserve, right? You could settle all transactions, it's real money and all that. Nixon breaks that. We shift to the petrodollar in 73. Really, the world reserve currency is a matter of fact. This table's not big enough. Other countries trust the dollar, and so they'll convert some of their paychecks, say, in Argentina into the dollar, and then they'll have dollar bills. Powell even said in that conference, I found it interesting, that there's $2 trillion in Federal Reserve notes out there, and he thinks that $1 trillion of them are abroad. I think it's north of that, but whatever. It's a big chunk, and that's not legislated. That's just a matter of fact. Anyway, the central bank.
Let me take this over here because it's not big enough.
Take two countries. Let's take U.S. and Japan. So, I spend, say, $1,000 of central bank digital currency in Japan, and you turn around, James, and buy $500 worth of stuff in the U.S. from me. And now, because those are liabilities, and Japan's going to be like, hey, we just took on $1,000 of your liabilities, and you only took on 500 of our liabilities. you owe us, we need to settle. You basically,
My
you owe us
favorite music right
$500.
now is
How are we going to settle that? And
trap.
I think, one possible,
They
there's
call
a
it
lot of
emo
potential
trap
answers to
or
that. One would be anything that everybody agrees on to settle transactions is just what it's going to be. So it could be gold, it could be silver, it could be whatever, it could be, seashells, but they have to agree on it. But I think the more likely thing is that somebody like the BIS is going to propose, or the IMF or whoever, something like special drawing rights, where you'll have a basket of currencies that'll include, all the big players, and it'll be weighted or whatever, and the transactions will be settled that way. But they've got to be settled though, because of the settlement process, and the fact that Powell and Carstens themselves, they're right. This is monetary, policy 101. Money from central banks, really money in our system, it's liabilities. And because they're liabilities, there's assets that got to go with them and things that got to balance out. I walked through that in my video pretty well, I thought. And the same principle would apply to central banks with liabilities issuing cross borders. How are those transactions going to be settled? And is the BIS planning on issuing some sort of reserve that functions as an asset? And if it does, then that will become the world reserve currency, whatever asset that is, because it is the ultimate reserve. The US dollar having broken the link to gold 50 years ago, a long time ago. That's just kind of my read on that, again, from 40,000 feet. That's kind of where I think this is headed.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are so many variables at play, and it could turn out a million different ways, but we see the writing on the wall. And when they start evoking Bretton Woods and talking about this new form of payment and all of this, I mean, there's clearly some massive tectonic shifts that are taking place right now. And again, I think obviously people have their minds on a million different things right now, but I think this is one of the base underlying issues of what is going to be driving world events in coming years. And I don't know. I just note that, I mean, it took depression, World War I, depression, trade wars, World War II to affect that changeover in world reserve paradigm previously. Do you think that we're all the way through the crisis yet that will affect the next?
I don't. I think we're in the second or third inning, and the more I think about it, I'm like, there's a crash coming. They need a big, powerful crash to get people in line, get them vaccinated, whatever they're going to do. But they need a big shake-up event. They need a Mike Tyson punch to the face. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Damn.
And they'll be much more amenable to some radical changes if they're really beaten up. I think a huge crash is coming. I could, of course, be wrong about that, but I don't see. There's a lot of changes that need to take place before they can put this system into effect. And the timeframes they're talking about, sometimes it's like, well, how is that going to happen by 2023, 2024? These, like you say, tectonic is the word. Plates under the planet just don't shift around overnight. They take years and decades to move. So I think a lot more work has to be done. I think a crash works to the benefit of the powers that be. And I think they're in a lot of trouble now. I think we never had an answer to what happened to that repo market, right? Back in September of 2019. I never really got a clear answer to that. And remember, the repo market tends to be the canary in the coal mine. It was in 2007 too. That's exactly, the same things, was that there the tremors start in that repo market. And it's like, whoa, what is coming our way? And I don't know, but I think a crash is coming, and I think the powers that be would be happy with that.
I'm afraid you're exactly right. And all the analogies, it's interesting you used the accordion analogy earlier, just as I was thinking that in my head, the blowing up of the bottle and then collapsing it for their own benefit, to make their own music, to buy up pennies on the dollar. Also, the tectonic shift, it takes years, decades of rubbing, and then finally it happens in what seems like this cataclysmic event that happens all at once. But in fact, it's been building up for years and years and decades. So,
and in hindsight is obvious.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly right. Wow, how did we not see it coming? And right. I'm afraid you're exactly right. And it may not necessarily be just a financial crash. It may, there's a million different types of events or scenarios we could see coming, but I think financial crash would be
pandemic being, this is a new, as far as I know, a new play in their playbook. something this manufactured, obviously manufactured. I'm not familiar with it with any sort of historical precedent for something
But
like
even
this.
that, I say the groundwork has been laid for decades now for this precise type of scenario, legislatively and otherwise.
For sure. Yeah, and just the prepping of the culture to accept, virus, virus, virus. I mean, how many movies have come out along these lines? There's been a lot of predictive programming to sort of soften the public up to get them to accept what's been happening and just make them this, the virus, the virus, the virus. Go jump under your bed. It's so scary. I just don't think 20 years ago this would happen.
Yeah.
Viruses weren't that scary.
And I think the digital infrastructure wasn't in place to affect the sort of shutdowns and moving us onto the digital economy. I mean, so many things to discuss. Anyway, I am sure you will be covering a lot of this in great detail in your Mafiocracy Now series, which will be continuing and spilling out through your feed shortly, and hopefully not just on YouTube. But anyway, I will direct people to your recent video so that they can catch up if they haven't seen it yet. I think it's exceptionally important work that you're doing, so my hat's off to you for that, and thank you for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me, James. Good to see you.
Okay, so we got one arm, one shoulder. Let's take a look at it. Try it on real quick. Pause this. Mike Tyson. Well, a couple things I could say about that. First of all, it just proves that boxing is a dead sport. The biggest fight in boxing is two old men retired, and the co-main event was a YouTube celebrity. Boxing's dead. Good riddance. Too many kids got TBI from boxing. I mean, you might as well watch pro wrestling. What's the difference between the Tyson fight and pro wrestling? That they didn't plan their moveset out? Okay, well, I think if you watch enough Tyson and Jones footage, you know exactly what their game is, and so you can plan your strategy around that. If the person's not going to knock you out, which they agreed to, you don't have to worry about, how fast is he going to be? How hard is he going to hit? So what's the point? What was the point of that? I mean, I watched a little bit of it. It was interesting. It was very interesting to see, Mike Tyson using his head movement to get inside, and then at the end, Roy Jones using his speed to score points. And I think in the beginning of the match, Tyson won, and I think Roy Jones won the later rounds. Either Tyson got tired or he laid off a little bit. So I was watching the UFC. I flicked back and forth. Once Tyson came on, I started watching that, and I watched most of it. But to be honest, I did also go back to the UFC because I never really. Once I started getting into MMA, I can't I don't like boxing because it's like, it's not even a complete art. All they do is punch each other. No takedowns, no grappling, no kicking. Oh, fuck. Stabbed myself. Oh, shit. Fucking motherfucker. I feel like I wanted the gold to be more in front. I think that's okay though, because it kind of like blends. You go gray to gray, not gray to yellow. And then this kind of comes around. Cool. So what I'll do is I'll maybe finish this part up I won't do the other sleeve today. And then maybe I'll go to my song. I'm making music. My favorite type of music, Fran, is so I came up on metal. Metallica. Uh, um, there was a main event way back of Logan Paul and KSI. Imagine how insane it got. Well, I'll tell you what. YouTube. That's good news for me, regardless of you know how I feel about it. Ultimately, I got to look at it as just like somebody attacking me in sparring. So that's a good thing. It's a good thing when somebody attacks you in sparring. It's a good thing that those guys are successful because they're doing it on YouTube, and here I am trying to do it on YouTube. So that's good news. My favorite music, real quick, is something called. You can look it up. Different words. There's emo trap. There's punk. What is it? 808 rock. I call it gent trap. DGENT. This is my style. DGENT is a type of guitar music which I play on. I try to play on my guitar, and then trap is the type of the hip hop beat. I think I would get copyright strike if I tried to play any of it. But my favorite song right now is called 6 Feet by the artist Unknown. And the O in Unknown is an X. So if you want to spell that out, Unknown, O, change it to an X. So next thing I'm going to do is trim this. How was the day's training with Team Sarah Longo? Well, Sarah got the credit because, he was in UFC. But Matt was actually Ray Longo's student. FYI, Bert won't let you wear that sweatshirt. I wear what I want, Scott. He might bitch about it, but I'm gonna wear it regardless. Haha. Matt gets the credit because he was the UFC guy, but Matt was actually Ray Longo's student. Not everybody knew that. Matt was actually a student of Ray Longo. And I'm not sure their story together, like did Matt meet Ray at the Henzo seminar? I think Ray brought Hickson in to do a seminar, and that's where they met. But I know that Ray was Matt's coach for striking, and unfortunately conditioning, because Matt had terrible conditioning. He didn't live the lifestyle of a martial arts athlete. He lived the lifestyle of a fighter. It's different. See, a fighter, they don't need to train. They automatically will fight. But that's a bad thing. Everything's good and bad. It's a good thing because Matt didn't give a fuck about GSP. He went after him. He knocked him out. He got the belt. But GSP, he's a machine. He outconditioned Matt in their fight. He beat him down. So you need both. But as far as Longo and Matt. So when I was first introduced to Matt, it was as his sparring partner. Now Longo, he's a Jeet Kune Do guy. So Bruce Lee, before he died, he began to incorporate grappling. And his coach, one of his coaches was Gene LaBelle, a judo master and Hollywood stuntman. So that's where they met. They met in Hollywood. Judo Gene LaBelle was a Hollywood stuntman and fight coordinator, you know. So they met through whatever circle that was. And they trained together because Bruce Lee was an actor, but he was also a legit martial artist. So he began to incorporate grappling into his training and philosophy, more so than in the past, you know, as a kung fu practitioner. So Ray Longo, he had one of Matt's students teaching. I think he was a blue belt when I first met him, maybe a purple belt. I think blue though. Name is Eric. Eric was the grappling coach at Longo's gym, and that's where I began to learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Eric, who was a student of Matt. So as I got improved in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you know, as a Muay Thai fighter, I was brought in to spar with Matt. So that's where I first met him. He may have done a seminar at Longo's, and I might have met him then, but the first time that I sparred with him, it was because, you know, he was training for MMA, and I was kind of like his not doppelganger. What's Superman to Bizarro Superman? Adversary? I don't know. Whatever the word is. He was a grappler. I was a striker. So back then they were still doing kind of like style versus style matchups in the UFC. He fought guys like Yves Edwards, who, although he's a good grappler, you know, he was more of a striker. So I was Matt's sparring partner, getting ready, you know, for his fights and stuff. And so we used to do training sessions, and we didn't spar every time. We did regular training sessions, you know. And Longo would put us through training sessions. So sometimes it was sparring, sometimes it was just conditioning. We did things like bag work. We did things like calisthenics. We did things like running the hill, you know, hill sprints. All different type of training. And when you do that on a regular basis, we're talking, you know, at least twice a week, one day sparring for sure, and then a couple other days probably just regular training. So, you know, Matt used to come into Longo's. He's already a gym owner at this point. You know, he's got his own students, so he have to come in on off hours. So it was like noon, sometimes afternoon. Maybe he has one of his students teaching or his brother, so that, you know, he has that day free or whatever. And he'd come in, say the training was at 12. I'll get there at 12, right? Or a little before 12. Matt will come in. It's like 20 after 12 he comes in. He gets there 20 minutes late. They call it Brazilian time. He gets there 20 minutes late. Then he's got to have his energy drink. Okay, so he takes his energy drink, he takes his time sipping it like a coffee, and he's got to wait until he takes a shit. He can't train until the energy drink kicks in and he goes to the bathroom. So by the time we get to train, this happened on almost pretty much every single session, even the nighttime sparring sessions, because we had to spar at night to mimic the time that he would be fighting. So sometimes it was the end of the day. We wouldn't be getting there until 10, 9 or 10 or 8 or 9. I don't remember exactly, but we got there late. We got to wait, and we're not sparring till an hour after. We're not training till, so say the session was 12 noon, we're not training until 1, because we got to wait for Matt to take a shit. And it was jokes, you know, it was jokes. We're harassing each other. Matt bullies Ray, you know, he makes fun of him. And that's just how some people, you know, connect with each other. But especially in the locker room, it's like you whip somebody with the towel, you know. That's the equivalent of how these guys interact with each other. And you know, it's just like Scott on the chat here giving me a hard time, or trying to, you know. It's like that's how you know, that's how we tease each other. That's how animals, you know, they bother each other until they wrestle. You got the lion cub, you know, teasing the lion, his brother, and until they're like, all right, fuck it, let's go, and then they fight each other, you know. I used to train with Ray. You can see on his Instagram and stuff that he still hits the pads and stuff like that. I think the last time he grappled was against me, and he fucking tore his knee. Because Ray, even though he didn't compete, because when he was coming up, there really wasn't anything. There was like amateur boxing and kickboxing and stuff like that, maybe. But this was like the days, even before that, they had the PKF, the Professional Karate, or the PKA, Professional Karate Association. People like Chuck Norris, Bill Superfoot Wallace, you know, that was the UFC of the day. All right, let's see how this came out. But yeah, so Longo, he was trying to do something like, it happens to me sometimes too, where my knee locks up. But I was in a grappling tournament. I think it might have been my first grappling tournament. I had a triangle choke on the guy. He wasn't tapping out, but my leg was kind of like positioned in a way where all the pressure, when I locked it in, he kind of bridged up as hard as he could and popped my knee. The triangling, the leg that makes the angle. He bridged up as hard as he could, and I think my leg was in the wrong position, or, you know, it's just the nature of battle. I should have had my ankles crossed instead of locked in. But anyway, he bridged up as hard as he could, popped my knee. So now every once in a while, if I'm not like super tight with my my diet and stuff like that, like if I'm not empty, there's more of a chance of the energy not being tight in that area, because it's kind of dispersed in the gut and shit like that. You know, you have to realize that when you're fighting to the death, which is what martial arts means, the art of war. You're not doing war for points. You kind of are, but you're actually killing people. That's the origin of war, right? Is death. So these techniques, they do come from that. So in this grappling tournament, I was essentially fighting to the death, where the kid, a young, strong kid, he doesn't want to get put to sleep by me or have to tap out. So he powered up as hard as he could, you know? Anyway, my knee popped, and then, so now I know that times when I went to the gym and I had eaten the day before. I won't train if I ate the day of. I don't have the energy anymore. But maybe I ate the day before or a day, and I've been eating every day, right? But then I didn't eat yet, but I did eat the day before. My energy I still got shit in here. So, I'm not as strong as I should be. Even energetically, it's not tight. Like, my energy's loose. My knee is loose. So if I go to sit up a certain way where my leg is kind of bent in front of me like this, the knee pops out of socket and I got to fall over real quick and just let it settle back into spot, Ow, I found it. Oh, fuck. I don't know what it is, an injury? I'm trying to think. It feels like a split right here. My knuckle. Feels like maybe it's a tendon. It's been bothering me. Like when I pull a certain way, I feel it pull. So I think it's a tendon. But I don't remember how. Ah! See, now I'm feeling a split. A split in the bone, maybe. Oh. I might have broke my knuckle. Ferran voice message.
Hey, Luke. One question, man. I really like how your logo from the YouTube channel is. I guess it's inspired from the Endgame movie, right?
No.
How did you come up with that logo, man? And why did you decide to use that one?
Okay. My first logo, I'll show you real quick. The first logo was based on the old Sarah Jiu-Jitsu logo, which was it looked kind of like the Bad Boy eyes. I don't know if they still make it. They had a company called Bad Boy from Brazil, and their logo, they had those Vale Tudo shorts, like the short bike shorts, and on the butt cheeks it had two eyes, kind of like this, but they were separate. And then the Sarah Jiu-Jitsu logo was similar to that, looked kind of like a cross between this and that, and so I took this and I gave it a unibrow. So this was my first logo for LukeKumo.com. Okay, so fast forward. I don't know if I had retired from the UFC yet or what, but I started to think about like me and my ex-wife, we came up with a 5-year plan, which eventually would have been me, and my own school. This was before League of Champions. This was like the tail end of my UFC career, or maybe the end of my UFC career. I started to come up with a concept. Let me just find the old paperwork. Here we go. This is part of it. Here we go. I was calling it Kumdo. Kumo Do. And then I was like, oh fuck, it looks like Kumdo. Anyway, the idea came to me, and I was like, all right, so you have a C, you have the yin yang, and you have these animals. And the idea was like each move that you learn, corresponds to a certain animal, and then each move list corresponds to a certain animal, and then in each move it gives you like a piece of this. What I have seven pieces. So each animal would have 7 techniques. This was one of my old students. And then, you know, the ranking system is based on these animals. So this was the first thing that I came up with. There's my old logo. I called it the League of Assassins. And I did that because I was known as the League of, because I was known as the Silent Assassin. And I have a YouTube video. Let me see if I could just get it real quick. We're gonna go. Okay. I'm gonna save that for later. Using your astral body. Alright, thank you, sir. Okay, now we're gonna go to back to YouTube. I'll fix the lighting, guys, real quick. Now this, we're gonna go my channel. We're gonna go videos, and we're gonna go date added oldest, because this, here it is. Okay, so this is, it might teach you a little bit about the scoring. Not that I'm still using this, but look, you have the idea of points. You know, this was what I first come up with. Now this, I actually had knockouts. I mean, yeah, I had head contact. This was before I found out that the brain hits the inside of the skull even if you wear headgear. So this was like sparring with headgear. You know, like Scott said, you have to respect where you came from. You know? So this, I was actually still doing head contact. I take full personal responsibility for my physical health with understanding of the possible contact and martial arts training. Scores must pass official review to add to League of Assassins rank. Okay. See, that's kind of like the app where I want to have a worldwide scoreboard. Okay, let's go. Okay, Master Destiny. How's that? Let me turn the lights off real quick, and then I'll play this. Oh shit! Oh! Oh shit! He got him! Oh! Oh! sponsor. Oh shit. Oh. True, true. Oh. Okay. Yeah. Oh my God. How long ago was this? Damn. Just remember, once you're in the league, you are in for life. Yeah. Oh. Let's go. Damn, bro. How long ago was that? USA Tour, April 16th to the 26th, 2011. Oh my God. 10 years ago.
Do you still get called the Silent Assassin, or is that a nickname that you don't use anymore? Did you replace it for Masterlukey, or did you always have had like those two since the very beginning?
Nah, I changed it to Masterlukey, bro. I changed it to Masterlukey. So this is the new logo. This is the Masterlukey logo. It's what'd you say it looked like? Oh, the Infinity Gauntlet. Yeah, I actually, what I did was I had these. Shit. Oh, here. I had these rings printed. .3D printed rings. Before this, I made them out of paper, and so like this is a folded over piece of plastic, but you can do it with paper. So I printed these out on paper, and then I made rings, and I made 5 rings, like the Infinity Gauntlet. I put 1 ring on each finger, and I colored each one. The middle stone, the middle gem or crystal. I colored that whatever color, corresponding color to the Infinity Gauntlet. But as you can see, this is 2011. Infinity Gauntlet didn't come out, the movie, till recently, and I never read that comic, so I didn't know about the Infinity Gauntlet. This was not inspired by the Infinity Gauntlet. I showed you the Kumdo thing, so this was the first logo that I thought of after this, from my own style. And it also comes from the Jub's Longevity logo, which I'll pull up on the computer here. We'll go to Facebook. We'll go to David Jub. Oh, hold on. Copy. Ah, fuck. Wow, he's got a Wikipedia? Nice, bro. Alright. No, what the? Oh. Where is his... Oh, here it is. See down here, the Jub's Longevity logo? So... Then the other thing is the Native American medicine wheel. So it's all connected. Let's see.
I will be asking
Oh,
you the other question.
the other thing about being Masterlukey, as far as branding goes, it's simpler than the Silent Assassin. It's simpler. It's less syllables. It's one word. It's kind of like you have, if I do this, in terms of a brand, swoosh. You know what that is, right? Swoosh. That's branding. You want it to be boom. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not good branding. This is old branding. This page here was designed by somebody, and they have a whole bunch of stuff. So, it's not like... let's see here. Okay. So if I had if I had this to design, it would say David Jubb, PhD. Heal any condition in your kitchen. Heal any condition, no drugs, no heal any condition, or healthy kitchen. There you go. David Jubb, PhD, healthiest kitchen in the world. Boom. Heal any disease, no blood, no drugs, no surgery. That's it. For and then all the contact information. See, this is too much. Why do you have a phone number, an email, and 2 websites? Plus the place where the event is happening. You know? Dr. David Jubb, PhD, healthiest kitchen in the world. Explosion, heal any condition, no drugs, no surgery, and then a website. That's it. And then maybe on the explosion we'll put free samples. David Jubb, PhD, healthiest kitchen in the world. Boom. Free samples. Free tasting. Yeah, tasting. Free tasting. Heal any condition. No drugs, no surgery. Or heal cancer. You know, I'm not going to talk about it anymore, but you get the idea. It's called branding. So now I'm Masterlukey. I'm not the Silent Assassin anymore. Alright, so it looks like Ferran sent his last message. I'm going to finish sewing my thing. And while I'm doing that, I want to hear John Leckrome again. Because I listened this morning and we're saying the same thing, okay, but he doesn't have as much energy as me because of his menu. There's a war being waged against you.
Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is John Leckrone. Well, today we're going to talk about lies, and lots more lies.
Let me pee real quick. I'll be right back.
Propaganda ministers are working overtime. Now, why is that, you say? No, it should be fairly obvious because we're not talking about little white lies just to save somebody's feelings. Oh, no. No, these lies are much bigger than that. There's an agenda behind them. And, you know, I go into great lengths to discuss what that agenda actually is. I sit here and I have these conversations and talk to people, share information, and try to expose the corruption behind the scenes. Let everybody see the big picture, how the stage system has been implemented, who implemented it, how it was done. I mean, these facts are undisputable. The facts. You can't defeat facts. That's the whole problem. That's why they have to propagandize you. That's why they have to lie to you. Because in order to overlook these facts, they must create an alternative view, an alternative story, an alternative picture. They have to tell you what they want you to think, how they want you to think. Because they don't want you to do that critical thinking yourself. You know, we sit here and we have conversations and talk about critical thinking skills, the ability to sit there and slice dice and look at all these facts and
I don't think I'm gonna have enough time to do
context and see the bigger picture. I've been following this
the
conspiracy my
music
entire life.
because
I'm here to tell you, it's a
I have to
very,
clean the gym
very
before I
easy to
train,
follow
and then I have
straight
to
line.
pick somebody up from
Heard
their
me say it over and
school
over again.
and drop them
All
home
roads
before I
lead to
train.
Rome.
So I have to go to the gym,
All roads lead to Rome. There
then
are
go
3
pick the
city-states
kid
in
up,
this world.
then
They
go
are
back to the
Washington,
gym.
D.C., the city of London, and the Vatican. Believe you me, they all have their origins from the Vatican. This criminal element that we're dealing with is so dark, so downright evil. This is a dystopian society that you're living in, and you've lived in it your entire life. It's only become more obvious front and center in the last 20 years. Obviously, in the last 3, it's really been in the overdrive. You know, we're dealing with an incredible amount of censorship, an incredible amount of propaganda as well. While we're viewing all of this and experiencing all of this, big picture, the articulation of the criminal cabal, the fact that all of these people, quote unquote, giving you quote unquote news, well, the folks are just actors. You're listening to their propaganda. They're considered to be entertainment, which is why you're not allowed to sue them for lying to you. Well,
Wow.
the news is just entertainment. Well, it's trauma-based mind control, my friends, and I'm here to tell you, it isn't entertainment. It's manipulation, it's control, and it's fear-mongering. None of it's acceptable. See, if you and I go into a movie theater and yell fire or get on board of an airplane and scream and holler at the top of our lungs, bomb, 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 guess what happens? You get arrested, as well you should. Call those terroristic threats. But they're permitted to lie to you, to sit there and tell you whatever they want to tell you, under the assumption that it's truth. God forbid you sit there and actually question known liars and challenge that. And then you get censored. They delete your channels, they delete your videos, they delete your commentary, and they put you in Facebook jail. You know, all those little things that are supposed to help, quote unquote, stop the spread of fake news. Fake news is about the only news out there from their perspective. What they call fake news, we call investigative reporting. See, when you know what's going on and you can actually point to it, and point to who the players are and make claims and talk about all this stuff, there's nowhere for them to hide. And you've heard me say it before. Here we are in 2020, and of course that's symbolism, recognition. You shouldn't have any questions at all what's going on. None. Because truth be told, what they have done, what they have created, is this dystopian hell. We're living in it right now. We're experiencing it right now. And in the end, we're going to have to get past this point, try and rebuild a society that they have successfully destroyed. Looking at unemployment rates, you're looking at an awful lot of closed businesses, you're looking at a change in the system that you know of. Everything that you're experiencing right now is so above and beyond anything that you had some knowledge base in the past. Why? Because again, it's all based on fear. It's all based on a new order, a new agenda, a new system. They have to destroy the old in order to rebuild under the new system. That's what they're doing. The economic reset scheduled for 2021. Again, pointed to it again and again, so I'm not going to get into it here. But let me explain to you very simply. lies that they have told you is a form of warfare. That's all it is. There has been a war that has been declared on you. You better get that through your heads. Because if you do not see this warfare, what it truly is, they've been doing it against you your entire life, then you will not be able to react to it. The problem is most people, first of all, don't even know they're fighting in a war because they haven't actually been, quote unquote, informed of such. On the contrary, they get lied to and told that the government loves them and that everything is okay and that, all these few groups out there, they're just sovereign citizens, or king slaves, thing as a king slave. But anyway, when you're questioning the narrative, you're questioning known liars who have been caught lying over and over again. Why is it that you're the one treated as an outcast? You're the one treated as a problem. Let me explain to you simple terms how war is performed. Okay. First of all, if you're not paying attention, look up. You've got chemtrails all over the place. That's warfare, folks. It's chemical warfare, biological warfare. Is it changing your DNA, putting metals in the air, changing your environment, making it harder and harder for farmers to grow their crops, doing all this garbage. Again, they say it's quote unquote geoengineering to save the planet. The planet's just fine. It doesn't need any
Well,
help.
they use the
And of course, if you're my age,
the
you know, for a fact, they
geoengineering
used to deny even
to
doing
water
this.
certain crops
Oh,
because
that's just, molecules.
the crops
coming
they're
out of the back of
using
an
aren't
airplane. Water molecules.
sustainable.
Don't worry nothing about it.
So only,
No.
and they need all the
We
water
knew
to
that
go to
back
one
in the
spot.
80s, that it was a much bigger picture than that. And, it was
And then they
skinny
use
and hard and
the
tough
stock
on the
market
back
to make money based on
then.
who they
You
know
couldn't hide
is
it
going to get the
anymore.
water.
Yeah, we're doing it. What of it? Yes, my friends, I'm here to tell you this is not good. Second, they poison your water. Is it any surprise that the fluoride in the water, people putting that product, residual garbage coming out of the aluminum industry, into the water to get rid of it, to save money? Not only save money, to actually turn around and make money from it. All in the guise of quote unquote helping your teeth. Teeth are still rotting out, my friends. I'm here to tell you it doesn't matter. Think that's good for your teeth? Think about what it's doing to your body. That's a new water purification system. Make your thinking a lot clearer. If that's not bad enough, let's talk about injections. Oh yes, all those wonderful things that they've been doing to us on our lives. For those of us that weren't smart enough to figure out what was the big game plan and stop taking them. Well, again, what's in those things? Contents of those vials change your DNA, put aluminum into your bloodstream, more importantly, aluminum into your brain. Folks, this is not a joke. You have mental damage done. There's a big reason autism has exploded in the last 40 years. Exploded in ways that you simply cannot fathom unless you've actually looked at the statistics and the numbers. There's a direct one-on-one correlation with the amount of people getting injections. They want this. They don't want you to use cognitive thinking skills. They need you to be an imbecile, an idiot, a moron. They need you to be a ward of the state, somebody to be controlled, a useless eater, somebody to be terminated because you will not be capable of surviving on your own. This is what their plans are. And if that's not enough, well, there are wars of aggression for making profits. Again, very, very, very relevant. You look at who's the players behind the scenes. Look at what they've done. Destroyed this planet with their garbage. Not just their bombs, or the nuclear. See, they don't tell you that America is still using nuclear weapons in 2020. That's right, my friends. They're still using it even now, even though it's quote unquote illegal. We signed documents stating that the United States would use. The United States, of course, is a federal corporation. The United States Code 2002, Section 15A. Depleted uranium is put in the tips of shells and rockets and stuff like that. And the reason for that is it's used as a tank buster. The problem is it leaves this depleted uranium all over the place. It's not a coincidence that an awful lot of soldiers returning from war zones suffer from depleted uranium poisoning. Now, they didn't call it that because, soldiers start sitting there saying, wait a minute, you're telling me that we weren't poisoned by burning oil wells, we were poisoned by nuclear weapons our own government used on other people's troops and civilians on the road. Yeah, that's the fact, folks, whether you're willing to admit that level of truth or not. That's the facts. Looks an awful lot like Desert Storm sickness is what they call it. It's depleted uranium poisoning. It's surrounded by nothing but dirty electricity as well. There's another form of warfare. The number 5 and the 7th letter in the alphabet, they don't like those two things.
5G?
Particular form. So I don't dare say them. Look at what they do. There's evidence coming out, and there's people actually talking about who's quote unquote mainstream media. People are being damaged by it. Again, all warfare. I think it's about faster internet speeds. Come on, this is a bigger picture. This is something much larger. Now, back to the subject matter of the dirty electricity issue. Gehrig's disease. Not in New York initially, right? Because it started electrifying New York. Look into dirty electricity, folks. There's plenty of videos and information out there, and there's books that are talking about it. Again, things we don't realize. These energy waves, these frequencies, go against our body's frequency, and they cause problems. Tumors,
No, that's true.
different frequency our body suffers.
I definitely
under. So
noticed
we're
it.
supposed to reverberate at the same frequency of the earth.
It's just,
Literally
I don't think
surrounded,
that's my battle right now.
surrounded and bombarded day in and day out with this stuff.
It's kind of
Now,
like
you
Breath
can
of
say,
the
well,
Dragon.
Charles,
You gotta
that's not
use it.
justification. You can't call that warfare, can't you? Because I'm here to tell you, the scientists know this stuff.
Certain aspects of globalism
You don't hear about,
I have to accept.
okay, well, there's certain things that you can do.
And
to
that's
make it a lot less
the idea of a
damaging.
benevolent king.
Would that qualify as a
And
true health crisis?
True
Of course,
modern
other than the
technology,
hoax that's going on right now.
which is
That actually does kill people too.
is not germ theory.
Much larger numbers that we want to talk about. Sit here and talk about the economic warfare. Read the book Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Enlightened a little bit. That's warfare too. Again, necessary lies to promote an agenda and to pursue a goal. Warfare is always about controlling people, subjugating people, destroying a stable society, and injecting the puppet into place. We have forgotten how it feels to even be free, folks. We don't even know how to be sovereign in their own rights anymore. They've managed to successfully create their slave class.
Through the food.
Mistakenly believe, I might add.
And you, John Leckrone, you don't even realize it. You've been
That's the
enslaved.
problem. As long as the slaves think they're free, makes the best slaves those who think they're free. Let the agenda continue, which again goes right back to the propaganda and the lies. Well, folks, I've been tired of the lies my entire life. Finding out what a lie is doesn't take much. A little bit of research and asking the right questions. And, it's never been easier to find the truth now. The power of the internet.
See, the problem is that
Most
part
of
of
you
this
make
is
a
elastic
search
and the other
in
part is
NSA
not. So
headquarters, but, you can find
I
it
hope
there.
it's not too bad
If you
there.
actually
We'll
wanna
take a
take the
look
time
and
to
see if they match up or
The
not.
problem is that people don't want to take it. People want to pretend that the world is okay. that there's not a conspiracy that has been going on for centuries after centuries after centuries to enslave and subjugate this entire planet. Ultra rich, with the majority of the population, with a 99%, actually probably 99.5%, subjugated slave. This cannot be permitted. You think you own something? You think you own that property you're living in? Look at that deed, it calls you a tenant. Look at the car, truck, says it's a certificate of title, which is not a title. Again, if you don't know that Franklin Delano Roosevelt hypothecated every man, every woman, every boy, girl, all of their property, lands, everything, in 1933 in his inauguration address, right out the starting gate, today is a day of national consecration. The word nation means the corporation masquerading as government. Consecration is agreement to work for the church. All roads lead to Rome. U.S. Treasury wasn't in the possession of the United States Corporation after that either. Another dirty little secret. We were put under military dictatorship in 1933. Again, very, very, very relevant. That's why they stole the gold. It still gave you some autonomy, some rights. Slaves don't own anything, folks. They stole your gold. They stole your gold certificates. They turned around and enslaved you. Didn't bother to tell you what they'd done. They just went ahead and did it. And you consented to it. They called it a new deal. Some new deal it turned out to be. It was a great deal for the bankers, great deal for FDR. Gold value was $20.63 when they stole the gold for 1 ounce. A few weeks later, there's a signature on a piece of paper, and boom, it was now valued at $35 an ounce. Giant windfall for the banks and the corporation masquerading as government. Massive theft of the American people who had their currency debased. Massive theft of that which they had saved and accumulated. And all because they trusted their government. That's what happens when you trust this thing called government. Of course, you've heard me tell you. The word government is Latin for mind control. Gouverneur, where you get the word governor, the word govern, which is to control. And mente, mind control. It's not complicated, it's not rocket science. Words have meanings, folks, and you better figure this out. Just because you think somebody's speaking English to you, that somebody has a black robe or a costume badge and a gun, they're not speaking English to you, even though that's what it sounds like. They're speaking a foreign language called legalese. It's way past time to wake up to that little truth. This is an agenda. This is warfare. You're in a war. You didn't cause it. You didn't ask for it. You didn't say to yourself, you know what, today I'm going to war. It doesn't change the fact
Every day.
that the tyrants are there. The enemy is not only at the gate, it's at your front door. It's time to see that. You don't realize what took place with the modification of the Trading with the Enemy Act in 1917. It got modified under FDR in 1933. Again, critical, relevant knowledge. 14th Amendment corporate debt slaves became the enemy. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Go ahead, U.S. citizen. You are the enemy.
Damn.
Now, you consider yourself to be a good, fun-loving, patriotic America, red, white, and blue, rah, 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 God and country or some shit like that. No. You've been put into slavery.
You see, look,
Been
this part
subjugated.
doesn't match up completely.
You've been pillaged. Now you're being murdered. It's time to wake
But
up.
it's not one stitch around, so it can stretch and
You're being lied to
should be fine. We'll see once
because
I
there's
try
a
it back
bigger
on.
agenda in play here. Those
Maybe I'll
liars
just leave it like that.
are trying to kill you. And I'm here to tell you, based on what I'm seeing right now, they're being very successful.
Yeah, you're right, bro.
There's something with it.
Look at you.
Anyway, if you appreciate my content, please like, share, subscribe, hit that bell to be notified.
They'll kill you in the marketplace and you'll pay him to do it, bro.
Again, my name is John Leckrone. You'll find links below, access to all kinds of wonderful places. You'll find me on a couple other YouTube channels as well. You'll find my link to my Facebook page. You do not have to be my friend to see what I write and what I share. You do have to be a member of Facebook. Yeah, I know. NSA, I get it. Also, you can find me on blogtalkradio.com. A show over there with Marty Oakley and another show over there with Tyler Davenport. Folks, the information's out there if you want to have it. It's only your life. How much value do you give to it? Maybe it's time to start learning a little something. You might just say,
Yeah.
again, my name's John Leckrone. Y'all have a wonderful day.
Life
Stay
food,
safe
bro.
out there. Thanks for stopping in. Goodbye.
If you don't have the insight into life food, you think you're saving your own life, but are you? If you're bringing in non-life food, what are you bringing in?
Representatives, Senator Masterlukey, and all the distinguished members of the legislature of Pennsylvania, we are very, very honored and very appreciative that you are giving us an opportunity to be heard, which we've been denied almost uniformly by the media and by legislatures elsewhere. All we ask is that you listen to the facts that we're presenting and then evaluate it.
How are you
We
asking?
can't help but note that we're doing it here in Gettysburg. Over 156 years ago, the fate of our country hung in the balance right here on this hallowed ground for 3 relentless days of bloody close combat between two armies that lost over 50,000 casualties. The fate of our republic was really decided that we'd be one nation, one union, one government, sharing values that are enormously important to us. And I don't want to overstate it, but I do believe that those values are at stake, not only in this election, but in the way this election was conducted and in what we're going to do about it. Because if we allow elections in the future to be conducted the way this election was conducted, we will have lost our democracy, our representative democracy. During the course of this election, we've come pretty close to losing our right of free speech. There's been censorship that I've never seen before, of an incredible nature by big tech, big networks, big companies. They only allow one side to be heard, and they refuse to allow the other side to be heard. It's almost as if they're afraid the American people, if they should learn these facts, will find out just who they are and what they're about.
Okay.
This voter fraud that took place, which, as you will see from the witnesses that we call, had several dimensions to it, several different ways in which it was done.
Okay, we're going to have to put this stuff away for now.
The most dangerous thing is it is very, very similar in at least 6 states that we've been able to study. In other words, what we're going to describe to you with these witnesses happened in roughly the same way in Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia. Primary device were the mail-in ballots. You know there was a fierce debate over whether we should have mail-in ballots in the first place. Many scholars, many experts always felt that mail-in ballots were very dangerous because they're very easy to forge. It leads to more defrauding. We were warned by Justice Souter, among others. We were warned by President Jimmy Carter and former Secretary of State James Baker in the report that they did on how to make elections more secure. They warned us that the one thing to do is.
Okay, so your message for on. I don't know if I can play James Brown. I probably can't on stream. So I'll check that one out. Thank you, though. I'm a fan of James Brown. I used to work out to James Brown music. For sure.
Now forgotten they wrote that explained the same thing. And I think what you're going to find as you study your mail-in ballot procedure here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and then in the 6 other places, this was a terrible mistake, and it allowed.
Okay, we'll come back to this.
The leadership of a party that had become pretty expert at voter fraud to really go wild. So, witnesses we present are going to first show you that in the case of Philadelphia and in the case of Allegheny County and 1 or 2 other counties, the mail-in ballots that were received were not inspected at all by any Republican. They were hidden from Republicans. In the case of Philadelphia and Allegheny County, I can't be absolutely certain, but I do believe the witnesses will show that a Republican never got to see a single ballot. Now, you know how important that is to determining whether it is a valid ballot or not. There's only one time you get to do that, and that's when you separate the envelope that possesses the verifying information from the ballot. The moment you separate them, you can no longer verify. You can't go back and recount. You can't go back and check paper ballot against the machine ballot because
We should have pockets.
it's a private ballot. It's an anonymous ballot. We want to keep it that way.
What do you think? Is that
The
cool
only
or
thing
no?
that identifies it is that outer envelope. At that moment, when they're separated, gone forever. That's the moment at which inspections have been allowed, time immemorial, in America. Pennsylvania, all of our other 49 states. Several of the witnesses here have been doing this for 20 or 30 years. They've never heard of a situation in which the mail-in ballot was just put in without allowing a Republican, a Democrat, even third-party members to take one look at it and object to it.
Alright.
For the very reason that it's too prone to fraud. Think about this.
Take this off.
In your state, Republicans were uniformly not allowed, kept out, put in chutes like the other cows to keep them away from seeing these ballots. Never happened before. Not only that, the same thing was done in Michigan, the same thing was done in Wisconsin, and on and on and on. What's the chance that on the morning of November 3rd or 4th, when they started the count, that in each one of those places, the Democrat leadership of these highly controlled Democrat cities have some history for corruption, and in the case of Philadelphia, a long history of voter fraud. I could show you the convictions. I don't think I have to. What are the odds that they're all going to wake up with the same idea? If the years and years of always examining together absentee ballots, all of a sudden, in a year in which we have a couple million of them per state, we're not going to allow any Republicans to see them. The person in Philly figures that out, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Milwaukee, Las Vegas, Nevada? Or is it more likely that this was a common plan? That maybe started with the whole idea of having mail ballots because it gives you a much wider range to cheat. When you had just a small number of absentee ballots, like 400,000, you have a certain range that you can cheat. When you have 250 or 2.5 million, you have a
I'm gonna put a little Jub on. Maybe his last interview on my channel. And let's see here.
And all of those immensely, like you're,
Those are people who
Totally fine. Do you look at my?
we want the
be an argument, because that's definitely not.
And now he's back. Not me though.
That was a mom. That was a mom that was given to me, just as any name is given, you know. And Krogo gave me that name.
Oh.
Somebody is, as a medicine person, they really learn how to be good at detecting probability.
Underwear?
Looking.
Okay. That sounds good.
Have you got good sound, mate, by the way, yes? Have you got good sound?
I hope so. I got
Yeah,
you
good
on.
on you.
I got you coming through the computer speakers, and you know, I just I'm like a gorilla trying to use my phone as a camera. So I know when I listen to our interviews, I always get something out of it.
Yeah, you're amazing because you always have a chief component that causes the body eye to be open. You know, the medicine person is taught how to keep the body eye open. And the chief component of keeping your body eye open is having compassion. Interesting, of course, it's only mentioned 3 times in the Bible. These are sort of things which I would look into just to see what was redacted, whoever-wise, you know. And it's possible for someone who's got a central organised nervous system way beyond and can store all the information that's on the internet right now in your brain and way more.
Jack from England
has
is
the
watching.
capacity to do that.
Jack from England is watching. He said the sound is good.
Good job. Well, that's good. Yeah, so listening should really be with a state of compassion where you are. And, you know, the Toltec taught you to have affection. And as you have affection, then your body eye is open and you have foresight to see what's inexplicable and see beyond what's inexplicable. And so, you know, one in such a state, of course, isn't prejudging things and they're deferring their judgment. That's one thing. And then you don't have to have got into anything that could have been an argument, because that's definitely not compassion, because the chief component of compassion is celebration.
There it is.
And so, you know, it's your really having the capacity.
All right, y'all. Wow, 3 hours.
So you wouldn't judge
grinding
because they're doing something that you know, is opposite or whatever, but you're remaining as everybody listening into a vision which really is beyond their.
So I decided not to eat tonight.
And to do that, you
because I'm going to
really be in uptime.
Be fighting.
Yeah.
I'm going to be fighting on Friday.
Time is like being fully, you know, in the moment,
So
as they would say.
Yeah,
I can't eat tonight and then be pooping tomorrow and Friday. So
you're more present tense orientated with your boot tense.
I'm going
You've got
to
your center of gravity inside your base of support, and you've got congruence in the content of things which you were talking about. Your
I'm going to put these leggings on now
and
because it's cold out.
You've got,
and then I'm going to
sort of relate to this as well.
go train.
So just really having the capacity to be really good at detecting probability, it's really yours or anyone else's capacity to be able to see patterns.
I'll hopefully go live. I forgot to keep my phone charged, so I don't know how much battery I have, but
nobody could deny that many false
hopefully I'll be able to stream the training session in
and for instance, there's been false flags, you know, like sinking
2 hours.
For instance, we've got, you know...
And then I got a call with my brother about
which is all about, you know, a staged
farmer's market.
false attack. If you look at history, you could see a lot of these sorts of things. And even...
I'll sign off for now.
Being assassinated here and there, and apparently some sort of intel and international police force sort of running things, but then who's behind that. So that's what you and I we could look at, because where anybody has in the past been observing an organisation of genocide, and all is linked to a criminal banking cartel, which has always been in the past the same thing. All the roads used to lead to Rome, and now all the roads apparently want to lead to China, but missing out on India. So that's a bit strange, but anyway. So CB Cowra is a criminal banking cartel of one world order, and it's really to devastate the economy of nations and collapse for governments, really. And that's been going on for a long while. And to institute a one world order by the certificate of vaccination and an ID, so it's COVID ID 19, because that's when it was to get underway, and 19 is sort of a favourite number. Because you and I, we live in a world where somebody could say, well, would you like this? And you could say, no, thank you. Right. So it'd be pretty clear if it were given that you've got the acronym of what it is, which is an ID. It's a certificate of vaccination ID as a way, as a ruse, really. So, in my view, it's really what I'm really good at is more professionally detecting probability. And, and if you could go to the future and you look back and saw what went on, you could see a forensic analysis and a post-mortem, really, in the future that you were looking back on. And, there's several points, at least, that you could see, that had gone on, Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard about that certificate of vaccination ID with the COVID thing. They want.
When you're coming up with a name and things, some of these things, which is Illuminism, is to cause you to be given a clue to things, because that's a technology to use belief systems, not to have adrenaline doing what's going on, nobody wants a goat that's kicking sort of thing when they're going to be sacrificed, sort of thing.
Nobody wants a goat? I'm sorry.
Oh, nobody wants the goat kicking when it's going to be sacrificed.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So information is currency, really. Information and currency have all been falsely applied, because you've got a monopolisation and you've got such a centralisation
Gotta go.
of the media. It's
hopefully I'll be back. If you want to watch me do some training
later.
later.
They have such a direct
Over.
condition of monopolisation. It's pretty easy.